Good morning. My name is Teddy Musonde, and I'm from the University of Zambia Media Department. And today we are in the presence of greatness. We are with Mr. Musa Mwenye, State Council. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Today we are here to give a brief question and answer session where we draw inspiration from your undoubtedly profound career and also your early life, sir.
Right.
So we can jump into it. So we want to know about your early life. Could you tell us a bit more about your journey into law, and from the onset, what inspired you to take up this profession?
Yeah, I grew up with a single mom. I've got two siblings. And I don't know, maybe you people may, of course, you won't remember this, but perhaps because you were not there. But in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, there was a program on TV called Petrocelli. You should look for it. Okay. Petrocelli. It was a lawyer who was building an unending building of a house, and then he would do it himself and represent people. So that one, and later on there was a program called LA Law on TV. Those two programs formed my mind, and I became settled from them that that's what I wanted to do. So I've known I wanted to be a lawyer from the time I was in grade 6.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's something that I'd always known. For a brief period, I lived with an accountant uncle, so I nursed the idea of being an accountant. That quickly fell off, and I got back to what I'd always wanted to do. So that is my brief background.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. That's ambition right there. So fast forward, you come to the University of Zambia and enrolled law school. What was your experience at the university life?
Those days we didn't have internet. We didn't have social media. In fact, we didn't even have cell phones at that time. So everything was manual. We researched manually. The law deck was where we sat most of the time, and sometimes we would stray into the Supreme Court library to get books. But we had a very competitive environment. I'll give you an example. About, I think, over 30,000 of us, or maybe even close to 50,000, wrote the grade 12 exam. Of those, UNZA just admitted 1,200 in those days. The total number of university students in first year was 1,200, if I'm not mistaken. Of those, about 400 wanted to study law, and only 33 of us got into law school.
Really?
That is how competitive it was. So you have over 50,000 writing, 2 getting into UNZA, about 400 wanting to go into law, 33 of us. Some of my closest friends didn't make it into law school. We started first year together. We had ambition of getting into law school. They didn't make it. They've been very successful in their careers in other fields. But that is how competitive law school was. We had great lecturers those days. The Professor Hansungures were still at university. The late Professor Shimba. There was so many luminaries that were still in the university, and it was a great learning environment. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm sure you people don't even remember a time when your rooms were being cleaned. Ours were being cleaned.
Really?
We had maids who would sweep our rooms those days and mop them.
Yeah. Okay. That's beautiful. But looking at the competitive nature that you have just told us about, what made you stand out? How did you grip with the competitive environment that law school provided?
We worked hard. We spent most of our times in books. We applied ourselves, and the first year or so we developed the intangible thing called the legal mind, and applied ourselves. Some of the greatest lawyers I know were my classmates, some of them, and we produced in our class at least, if I'm not mistaken, 7 High Court and Supreme Court judges.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, and a lot of people have gone on to do great things. The class has produced 2 Law Association of Zambia presidents. Yeah. myself and my friend James Banda became presidents. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I think I ended up becoming Solicitor General and Attorney General. I can't think of any other person who's gone on to do that, and I think I was the first SC in that class. So it's been a great cohort. Yeah,
that's motivation.
Great successful people who have done great things as lawyers and judges. Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's motivation there. So we now leave the law school behind. We jump into your early career. What are some of the valuable lessons that you took as a commissioner of the Small Claims Court?
Well, Small Claims Court came much later, after I'd practiced law for some time. But perhaps one of the greatest compliments that was paid to me was when I interned for the late Mainza Chona, just shortly after getting into the profession, after leaving UNZA. And he said to me, having looked at you, young man, I will be reading about you in the paper in 5 years' time. So that was a great compliment for me. And as you may know, Mr. Mainza Chona is #1 on the row of practitioners. He's the first Zambian barrister, 1958. That's when he got admitted. So he's late now, but I had the rare opportunity of working with him. And those are people who were very disciplined, very focused. I've interacted with some of the greatest lawyers in this country as well, who have been inspirational. So yeah, that's where we draw our inspiration. On the Small Claims Court, it came later on. I mean, it's adjudication. Yes. I do some arbitration work still. It's similar. Small Claims Court is a court that we established. Okay. I was one of the first commissioners of that court, and I think it's dispensed fast justice. It's also handled a lot of small commercial matters which have been cost effective, and I think it's done great service to the community. I left the Small Claims Court when I became Solicitor General. Okay. In 2011, and I haven't gone back since then. Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. Yeah. Well, looking at us young, the upcoming law, the aspiring lawyers, we get our aim really. We feel proud once we interact with the big names, having to recommend us, and it's something that we all aspire to be. So what impact did those words that Mr. Mainza Chona the late give on you? What made you find yourself in that space where you are recognized by the first ever barrister?
It was humbling. Obviously, he must have seen something. It was before I was anything. I was still a very young man, very raw. But he paid me the greatest compliment perhaps I've received from anyone in my practicing career. But what is important for you people who are coming behind us is to be attentive and teachable. It's one thing for people to give themselves to you in terms of pouring their knowledge into you, but you must be a sponge that sucks it up. And there is no words that are spoken in the course of an interaction with people who have gone before you that are wasted. So you must be in a position to latch on to them. For example, I had a boss once, and we were going to court. We were driving down, and this is one of the most valuable lessons I've learned. I've just said with Mr. Chona, that's the biggest compliment I was paid. But perhaps the most valuable lesson that I've learned is one given to me by a former boss of mine. I think it didn't even register to him at the time. So we were in the car driving to court. A very young lawyer then. I must have been very young. And he we saw an older person walking down the road. He was carrying a bag and walking. So he said to me, "You see, Musa, you see that man? He used to be," then he gave me what that man had been in life, his positions. So he had been a great man who, at that time, was walking. So he didn't have a car or anything. Then this former boss of mine said something in passing that up to now has been a lesson for me. He said, you see, Musa, you need to realize that the beginning is always tough. So in life, lessen the number of beginnings you have. Now, for me, that has been a lifelong lesson. You don't keep starting, you move from here, you go there, you move. If you keep doing that, you keep starting. And the beginning is always tough. So if you have many beginnings, you will keep having toughness. Yeah, so it's things like that you hear from people and you learn. You become teachable, you pick up lots of life lessons. But also, if I were to give you advice, I'll tell you that for a long time, 17 years I think, I never stepped in a nightclub, never touched alcohol, just built my career. I'm not saying that's what you should do. Okay? I'm not saying that's what you should do, because you end up having midlife crises and so on. But have a balance. There is no shortcut to success. You need to work hard and build your career. That's number one. Number two, you need to realize that the law is like anything else. Reputation is very important. So people have to know you for something. And one of the things you should be known for is excellence and hard work. And that is done in the formative years of your career. We have many lawyers. Some of them are known for being people who make shortcuts. Other lawyers are known for sheer incompetence. But you need to decide what silo you fall into. What do you want to be known for as a lawyer? And those are things that come with hard work. It comes with you building a reputation in the courts that you are never late, you are always on time. Also, when you prepare a case, it must be done properly. Don't leave any loose ends, and read. In the beginning of your career, you must not assume anything when you're going to court, because at my level, sometimes I can just use experience, but way back then, all those years back, I had to read everything, because I didn't know much, and it took me reading, learning. If you want to be trial lawyers, watch trials. Go to court and observe how people conduct trial, because advocacy is a skill that is rarely taught. It's observed. You can learn it, but to teach it to you, there is no class where they tell you, this is how you stand in court, this is how you are gracious. There could be a few, but for some of us, we learned it the old-fashioned way. When we heard that people like Mr. Edward Jack Shamana were in court, we would go into the gallery and sit and watch them. Wow. We would watch how they are talking, the grace with which they cross-examine witnesses, because sometimes you watch movies and you think banging the table and shouting is the way to get someone to admit. No, it's not sometimes the best way. Yeah, so that would be my advice, that you go down the trajectory of learning, of doing the best you can to build your career. I'll give you an example. There was a judge in the High Court who was very meticulous. She ended up retiring in the Constitutional Court. Okay. And one day, I just never got a notice for a case that was coming up. No notice. And I missed that case. And there were big lawyers that came from the Copper Belt. I was on one side, they were on the other. They came to Lusaka and they went to the judge to start the case. So she asked, she says, where is Mr. Mwenye? And these people said, we don't know, but we are ready to proceed. She said, no, I'll stand down the matter for 20 minutes. I know that lawyer. Every time I come here, he's always here 20 minutes before. He won't just stay away. So she stood down the matter. After 20 minutes, came back, I wasn't there. She said, I'm adjourning the matter. There must be something wrong. Now, when you build your reputation in that way, the judges will know you for something. They will know that when you stand there and you're saying something, it is they need to listen. But if you're always unprepared, always late, always, known for tardiness, you'll find that you slowly develop a reputation. So even when you are making sense, very few people will be listening. Yeah. So guard your reputation, work hard in the formative years, and everything else follows. Yeah. The motivation should never be money. The motivation should be the law. We loved the law, that's why we got into it, some of us. And the law has been good to us. Yeah, but it should never be that you follow the money. The money comes. So, I know young lawyers now love the Mercedes Benz, all these big cars. Yeah, those will come. But in the first 1 year, I walked. In the first years of my practice. I actually walked. Those days, I don't know. We had just started having these small buses, and we would walk. I would walk from Fairview, where I was living, into Katondo Street there. Yeah, and I walked. I'm not condemning cars. Enjoy them, but get them properly by working hard. Yeah, working hard, and the money is it comes from hard work. It should never be your primary motivation. Yeah.
I see, beautiful. Talking about loving the law, priorities and focus, what areas of law have you specialized in, and what areas of law would you advise us aspiring candidates to venture in? Where is the law lacking?
No, I would advise you to follow your heart and what excites you. I've spent most of my life litigating. I'm a courtroom lawyer. I've done a lot of litigation, so it's arbitration and litigation for me. And the bulk of my work has been commercial litigation and arbitration. But I have also done a lot of judicial review and public law cases. Yeah, so that is where I've spent most of my time. Have I defended criminal cases? Yes, I've done some criminal law. So you see the nature of I like to say this, and I may be wrong, but this is my settled view. Our legal practice and the arena of the law in Zambia is not that the industry, the legal industry, is not that large that you could have a strict specialization. What we have is biases. Okay. Yeah, we have a bias in commercial law, but you will find that same commercial lawyer sometimes, for the right client, will do a one mining case. So I am all for specializations, but I know that almost every litigation lawyer that I know doesn't have a strict specializations in that. They have biases. They are biased towards something, but they will do other matters that come their way. Yeah, it takes 99 years to train a lawyer. So you keep learning new areas of law. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. In the interlude, you mentioned you became the president of the Law Association of Zambia. So just run us through, what were your priorities, what was your aim, your vision for the law society and environment in Zambia during your tenure?
Well, we wanted to modernize the profession, and you know, when I first of all, I was honorary secretary of the Legal Practitioners Committee, and when I became honorary secretary, I found that all the certificates, the practicing certificates, were being done by hand. Someone would write the name by hand. So I introduced a simple thing of just printing the practicing certificate. So the things that you see on the walls now, I designed them and ended up introducing them. But as president, we wanted to continue the modernization of the profession. And that building, you see, that project was started with our council. When I was president, I think James Banda was vice. The treasurer must have been Kafula Mwicha at that time, and we started this the project of that building. So I'm so glad that it's up and running now. So that was our priority then.
That's nice.
Yeah, but it was short-lived. I was there for just under a year, and then I became Solicitor General and State Counsel. After that, I became AG.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Talking about the disciplinary levels there, how would you describe the disciplinary levels of lawyers back then and back now? And now?
Yeah, well, we have seen a slow slide into some areas where money, usually clients' money, misuse of clients' money, and breaching trust of clients, it's increased now, I would assume. Back in the day, we still used to have one or two problems here and there. But I think because of the sheer number of lawyers now, there've been quite an increase. We've seen more numbers of people who want to get rich quickly, misuse clients' money and so on. Yeah, but as I say, the most important thing as a lawyer is to safeguard your reputation. Yeah, I've never been punished by the Legal Practitioners Committee in all my practicing career. There's been times when we've had absolutely no money in our account, but in the client's account there's $1.2 million. It's not your money, you don't touch it. But some people go and touch clients' money, and this happened to us. I mean, my partner Eddie will tell you that there was a time when the office account has no money, but you have $1 million which you are keeping for a client. For 8 months, the client is not coming. We did a property transaction for them, and then one day they just called in the morning and said, "We want our money today." Okay. And we said, "Get it." So we transfer the money. But some people now start using that money and misusing clients' money. That is a sacred area in the law. You don't breach client trust by misusing their money. Client's money is not a lawyer's money, and it's not meant to fund purchase of Mercedes-Benz and all these things. Yeah. Just like taxes. VAT, when you collect it, you issue a bill, you give it to a client, the VAT must be remitted to the authorities. So a lot of people keep that tax, keep the client's money, and it's completely unacceptable.
Indeed. Well, we've heard it. Money shouldn't be the motivation. Yeah. We must love the law. So you said your tenure as last president was under a year, then you went on to Solicitor General. So just run us through the roles of a Solicitor General in Zambia and what it involved.
You see, the two law officers, it's a law, technical term. You have law officers of the Republic. Just like in the UK, you have law officers. The two law officers of the Republic are the Solicitor General, who, I mean, technically you call the learned solicitor, and the Attorney General, learned attorney. In very brief terms, the Solicitor General is the Deputy Attorney General. That is it. So conventionally, he is the one who leads on the litigation of most claims for and on behalf of the government. That is the practice that I left, that the Solicitor General does more litigation, and then the Attorney General concentrates on his policy matters, because the Attorney General is an ex-official member of cabinet, but he also is the principal legal advisor to the government. So that is usually the distinction in the laws. But the Attorney General is also in charge of the litigation, but he delegates it to the Solicitor General. Yeah.
I see. So quickly after that, what was the journey from Solicitor General to Attorney General?
Yeah, my boss then was the current Chief Justice.
Oh, really?
So Justice Mumba Malida was Attorney General when I was Solicitor General. Okay. And then when he went to the Supreme Court, I succeeded him as Attorney General. Yeah.
Beautiful. And any challenges that you faced?
I mean, the normal challenges of advising clients, and sometimes the clients not abiding by it. I think the most, maybe you people were too young then, the most critical advice I gave, which was created a bit of a furore, was when the late President Michael Sata died. I issued an opinion saying that the Constitution required that only the Vice President could act as President for 90 days. And the Vice President then was Dr. Guy Scott, and former President Edgar Lungu had been acting, but there were sectors which were not happy that I put my foot down and said, no, only the Vice President can act, because Article 38 was clear. Upon the death of the President, the Vice President acts for 90 days. So I put my foot down, and I was accused of having threatened the then acting president and so on. Yeah, but that is what we do as lawyers. You have to be strong in the position you take on principle as an advisor. And when you give your advice, you leave it there. You don't change your advice to suit the expediencies of the moment. And the law was clear. I couldn't be complicit in misinterpreting the law, and I interpreted it the only way it could be interpreted properly. Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's how a lawyer must be built, stand by the law. So particularly any landmark case that you feel that is close to your heart, any case that you say, yeah, this one is a case that I love.
Well, we did the seminal case. Are you saying a case I argued? Or?
Yes, a case that you...
There are several cases. There are several cases that we've argued. After I left, the former government had deregistered Mr. Harry Calaba's party, if you remember.
Yes.
We went to court to help him, and I think it was called Democratic Party. And that was reversed all the way up to Court of Appeal, and we won. That was a seminal case. There was also the Copperbelt Energy Corporation. There was a move to nationalize that entity. We challenged that and got a ruling up to Court of Appeal. And there are several other seminal cases in the public law area that we argued.
Okay,
yeah,
that's inspiring. Yeah. So after leaving government, what then was the trajectory?
No, I just came back to my law firm.
Okay.
I had set up this. The only time I have worked anywhere other than in law practice is when I was in government briefly. Yeah. So when I left here, I took leave of absence. And my partner, Mr. Eddie Mwitwa, continued to run the firm. And when I just came back to my office.
Your office, okay.
Yeah.
Nice, swift. There was no way, there was no time where you know, where am I going? This was all matter of direction.
My office had always been empty. My chair was waiting for me, and I came back to my office.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, chairman of the Anti-Money Laundering Authority. What did that come? When did that come into play?
That is ex officio as Attorney General. The Attorney General is also chairman of the Anti-Money Laundering Authority. Yeah, so it was during the time I was Attorney General.
Attorney General. What were the efforts of combating crime? What were the crime levels then and now, to your opinion?
Well, money laundering is always an issue, and criminals always find innovative new ways of hiding their money. So we have challenges now as we did then, but we worked to resolve those challenges.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, looking at that career, we as a young generation we want to fill in those gaps. What do you think is the future of the law profession?
You people are the future of the law profession. Some of us have been doing it for a long time now. We don't know for how much longer the good Lord will sustain us in doing this job, but it's a worthwhile profession, and if I were to advise you, I would advise that persistence is everything. Yeah. You need to stick to it, because sometimes things look hard. It looks like it's not working out, but sometimes all you need to do is to stay. That's all. You need to turn up and stay, and longevity sometimes it makes things a bit more clear. So you need to stick to it. I know some people who, after a few years, things are tough and they stop. But be clear what you want to do and stick to doing it. What I would advise you as well, I know these days there are so many options, but if you can, for the first 5 years after you get called to the bar, stay in court.
Okay.
So litigate, and then after that you can decide to be company secretaries or whatever else is done, because the courtroom forms the lawyer. That's my view. And you draft a contract. The only way you draft a contract that is strong is if you know how the courts will interpret it.
Oh, wow.
Okay? When you are drafting that law, the only way as a draftsperson, you know that, look, this law, yes, you can read the books, but if you see how courts can quash laws in court, then, or interpret them, you'll be able to draft better. So whatever areas of law you're doing, litigation is usually the bedrock that tests that area of law. So my advice, and I could be wrong, is stay in court for 5 years, and then after that you can specialize. Get that courtroom experience, and and you can go to other areas of law. I think for young lawyers, I normally advise, at least in this jurisdiction in Zambia, it serves well to stay in court. Do a bit of court work. Even if you love other areas of law, do a bit of court work.
That's nice. Yes, thank you. Well, as we approach our conclusion, the media committee is yet to publish our scribe. Yes. What do you think is the importance of students, law students at the University of Zambia, other law schools, to engage in publications such as the scribe and student journals?
Student journals are good, especially if they are backed by research. Don't fall into the trap of just publishing rumors and this and that and social media type of publications.
Yes.
What you need to do is to go with publishing new areas of the law, pick a case that has just been passed and then analyze it, sit down. If it is scholarly in nature, it's something that I would encourage to do. If it's just entertainment, I think we have enough on TikTok. Yeah. What you need with now is a bit more detail. Sadly, our societies are moving towards 3-minute clips. Okay, I was telling someone, I don't know when any of you finished reading a whole book from beginning to end. Like, just pick up a book, and we used to read. One of the best books I've read myself up to now is Cain and Abel by Jeffrey Archer, and it was a big book like that.
Okay.
And I read it when I was in grade 10. And the other one is a Wreath for Udomo. Those two books stand out in my mind. So we used to pick up books and read. That was our entertainment. We'd read books. We learned how to read and write. Our diction, the English, became refined, because those days we'll have a dictionary next to us while we are reading. We'll learn the words. And a lawyer's tools of trade are his words. The way he articulates himself, the way he writes or she writes, those are the tools of our trade. So if I were to advise you people, get back to that in terms of your journal writing, to scholarly articles, to reading more, to exercising yourself. I think finally I'll tell you of a story which shows the big problem we have in the quality of output from law schools around the country. With the time I was Solicitor General, Ziale had a marking system that had the lecturer marking, and then there would be an assessor who would analyze the lecturer's marking. At that time, State Counsel Vincent Malambo was a lecturer in ethics. So he brought his papers to me as assessor, and I was going through them. And one paper, State Counsel Malambo wrote in the front of that paper, this person cannot be allowed to be a lawyer because of the quality of work. So I thought, oh, that's harsh. I read through, and then I said, I agree. Because my 9-year-old daughter wrote better than that person. Okay. You see, the quality, and this is a person who had finished a degree, a whole degree, and went to Ziale. But you couldn't make a head or tails of what this person was writing. You see? So that is what we need to move away from. When a lawyer writes something, there must be no doubt that this has been written by a lawyer. But the quality of some of the writing we see is very disappointing, to say the least. So my advice is, in your journal, when I pick it up, there should be no doubt that this is a law school journal. I would be the most disappointed person if I picked it up, and I might as well be on Facebook or TikTok. It must be a scholarly journal. If it's lightheartedness, the lightheartedness must be educated lightheartedness, not the nonsense we see on social media sometimes. we don't expect lawyers to put that in a journal. You can do it, talk about it on WhatsApp, but the journal should be something that refreshes you in terms of its quality and depth of content. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, the Law Association, the Unza Law, University of Zambia Law Association Media Committee, to be specific, is really humbled to be in the presence of State Counsel Mr. Musa Mwenye. As we conclude, any final thoughts for our readers reading this, who are yet to read the scribe, and our viewers there? Any final words?
No, I wish you all the very best in your studies, and we hope to receive you in the profession in the not too distant future. Yeah, I hope I'll encounter you in court one day.
And win.
Yeah.
And win you.
All right then. No, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 2024 interview.